An elemental warrior wielding earth and wind to crush their foes, or an avatar of lightning and lava that dishes out meteor-like damage from afar. Today, we'll be taking a look at the two DPS specs of the Shaman, one of my personal favorite classes in World of Warcraft, and how they feel and perform in Season of Discovery. I'm Big Milo and I've been playing the Shaman ever since WoW Classic originally came out, leveling 1 to 60 and raiding with it. Now for some of you, this might be an easy choice. Do you want to be a ranged or melee DPS? But if you're like me and you love the fantasy and feel of a class more than you love the mechanical aspect of their role, then this video might be for you. Beginning with Elemental. The biggest downsides of this spec back in vanilla and why it was so underutilized in raids was due to a few problems, but the biggest one being mana, forcing them to either drink expensive mana potions, and if they were on cooldown and you ran out of mana, you were kind of shit out of luck, because other casters could at least use wands to auto attack from afar. But since shamans use relics, their only option was to go into melee with, a trash caster weapon, or sit and wait for their mana to regen through other support buffs. Which brings me to my next point. Manatite Totem could regen a whole lot of mana, but it is specific to restoration, and a lot of other casters wanted this Manatite Totem. And alongside Resto's pretty good multi-target healing through Chain Heal, made them a lot more desirable in raids than an Elemental Shaman ever would be. As a raid leader yourself, which would you pick? A good healer with solid buffs for the entire group, or a bottom tier DPS that brought less buffs and less utility? So now you might be asking, how was this addressed in Season of Discovery? Well, through 3 brand new runes that brings Elemental from a cut, sizzling power line in a water pool to a true avatar wielding all the elements to crush their foes. The runes are Lava Burst, Shamanistic Rage, and Overload. Most of you will be familiar with Lava Burst, since it has been a staple of the retail LE Shaman for years and years. And in SOD, it's a simple but high damaging burst spell that will always crit if Flame Shock is on the target, dealing around 400 damage at max level. Overload is a simple passive that gives a high 50% chance of duplicating whatever elemental spell you cast at half the efficiency, letting casting shamans deal some extremely high burst damage if you, for example, get a double lava burst on a squishy mage. And Shamanistic Rage is fantastic for the mana regen, letting you get mana back to yourself and the entire party based on either your attack power, spell power, or healing power. Now, a tip is to dual wield weapons even as elemental and use Rockbiter weapon on both of them, so that you substantially increase your attack power, which will let your Shamanistic Rage fill up pretty much your entire mana bar every minute. With all of these changes, Elemental Shaman feels amazing, sending out auto-critting double lava bursts and deleting the mob's health bar before they even reach you, and they are a true powerhouse in PvP due to their high burst, which I reckon will only be solidified further in Phase 2. They get access to Elemental Mastery, which guarantees a crit on their next spell. In PvE, however, they are unfortunately still a bit behind. Compared to other casters, they are still lacking in the mana department, as their Shamanistic Rage rune is on a 1-minute cooldown. This, however, is not that big of an issue, seeing as most of the fights in the current raid are about 40 seconds long. At its core, I think this problem stems from the Shaman needing so much to get up to their baseline viability, whilst other classes that were already there and got new runes got just buffed even further. So all in all, the Elemental Shaman in SOD is a burst master, making it an excellent pick if you like PvP and want to see big heavy numbers delete health bars, and it is a ton of fun to use with the new rotational runes. So enhancement. Sharing some of the same issues in vanilla that the Elemental spec, they just brought lackluster damage and mana issues, as well as the debuff limit at the time being 20 meant that enhancement shamans couldn't even use their single most impactful spell, which was Storm Strike. Now this was alleviated in Season of Mastery, but the shaman was 90% of the time relegated to healing in raids. Enhancement did at least bring a buffed version of Wind Fury through their improved weapons talent, but again, Restoration brought the baseline Wind Fury totem, and that extra 15% was not quite enough to warrant Enhancement a solid raid spot. The SOD Enhancement Shaman has gotten some big changes from its vanilla counterpart though, the biggest one being dual wielding. All the specs of the Shaman can now dual wield after completing a short quest line in Mulgore, and it is a huge boon for the performance of the enhanced Shaman, as they can now have 2 of their weapon enhancements up instead of 1. This leads to a solid boost to their DPS and a different feel to the spec. Indeed, a lot of players have already complained that the two-handed enhancement shaman was one of the hallmark things that made classic WoW classic and differentiated it from the later versions of WoW. Judging by the response of the devs though, it seems promising that they will add new runes that support the two-handed playstyle in later patches. Lava Lash is their new core rotational ability that for nearly no mana causes about 40 to 50 fire damage to the target, which is a solid DPS boost that Enhancement desperately needed. Enhance can also use the new Molten Blast rune in place of Lava Lash for AoE damage, although since it's supposed to be a tank ability, it does generate a lot of threat, but also does a lot of AoE damage. And since the tanks currently playing aren't the best, I would be careful when using this. Just let your tank build threat on the pack before blasting off. Shamanistic Rage gives the same boons to Enhance that it does to Elemental, although I would argue it has even higher value to the melee spec since it reduces damage taken, and Enhance already drains less mana than Elemental, making that 1 minute cooldown not so bad. Due to the 6-second cooldown of Lava Lash and their final big rune being a passive dual wield spec, the feel of Enhance isn't as revolutionary as the Elemental rework. Elemental felt like it got an overhaul and makeover. Enhance was more like a makeup and spot treatment, though I would argue Enhance did not really need it as much. They were terribly fun in vanilla WoW with their Wind Fury procs and chaotic numbers, and they are terribly fun now even without that, and I suspect will be one of the most loved specs next patch when they do get both Wind Fury and Stormstrike alongside whatever new runes await them. Enhancement has also gotten a set of runes that truly enable it to become a solid tank spec, which is currently really sought after for the level 25 raid. And I won't go into this too much as I wanted to focus on the DPS specs for this video, but safe to say, if you want to play Shaman and you want a tank, you won't go wrong with that spec. In summary, the Shaman feels a bit like an investment at the moment. Their true power heavily coming online in the next patch when Elemental gets Chain Lightning and Enhancement gets Stormstrike and Wind Fury. But for right now, Elemental is a fun high burst damage caster that has a truly unique playstyle compared to its clothy peers and low competition for gear, whilst Enhancement has become more of a rogue than a warrior with its damage over time flame shock and fast hitting powerful attacks that will make numbers fly all over your screen. Whichever you pick, I'm certain you'll have an Elemental Blast in patch 1 of Season of Discovery, and I hope this video helped you in your decision. If it did, or if you learned something new, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, be sure to follow me on Twitch if you want to catch some live streams of Season of Discovery, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Take care now, and bye bye.